Okay, here's the problem. After 35 years, my septic tank cover cracked. So I called around and asked how much it would cost to replace this septic cover. And the cover alone, which is about 28 inches in diameter and 3 inches thick, I got quotes for that for anywhere from $200 to $400. To which I responded, I don't think so. This concrete that was here is not even reinforced, and it just broke, probably from repeated attempts by me to go over it with the lawn tractor. So I'm going to build a form and fabricate one for a lot less than $200 to $400. Well, this is my first attempt at fabricating a cover for my septic system. This cover goes on the top of the septic system. It's not the actual cover that seals the liquids in the tank itself. So the septic tank is built up to a certain level, and then this is the cover that goes over it. Anyway, what I did was I took a 3-inch piece, 3-inch wide piece of 1/4-inch plywood, tried to bend it in a circle with water and steam, and I really wasn't happy the way it came out. Some of the problems were that it would tilt one way or the other, and at the end, you can see here, it really wouldn't close in a circle, and the circle wasn't a perfect circle either. It was a little bit of an ellipse. So that's even with these wooden blocks. I tried to force it into a circle, and I had little corner brackets here too to try to do the same thing. So it really didn't work out. So I'm thinking of doing this another way. And my first thought was, why has it got to be a circle? So I think what I'm going to do is build it into an octagon shape. And I'll show you that. Okay, what I did was build a frame. As I mentioned before, the cover is 28 inches in diameter. So I rescored or redrew the circle on this piece of plywood. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. And I took one 4x4. I bought at the lumber yard that was 8 feet long. I ripped the 4x4s, these two pieces here, down to 3 inches high because the cover was 3 inches high. And then I took the remaining part of the 4x4 and ripped it down to a sort of 2x4, 1.5 inches thick, but 3 inches in diameter, or actually 3 inches across instead of 3.5 inches. So everything here came out of one 4x4 that was 8 foot long. And again, these are just ripped down to 3 inches high, and this is 3 inches high as well. So now I got a basic square, and what I'm going to do to make the octagon is I took some pieces of 1x, this is happens to be poplar, and cut them to length and put 45-degree angles on both sides. And I am going to glue them in the corners like this. By the way, the corners here are glued with waterproof carpenter's glue and screwed. But for these, I think I'm just going to glue them in. And I matched them up so that they meet the circle in here. And then after that, I'm going to make something to reinforce the concrete so if I go over it with my tractor again, it won't crack. So that's where I am right now. Alright, I have the corners glued in here on all 4 corners. So now we have an octagon. And then I made up these reinforcing rod. I think part of the problem that the last one cracked is I ran over it with my lawn tractor one too many times and it cracked. So I'm going to reinforce it with re-rod. These are 2 foot lengths of re-rod, and I'm going to, I've already wired some of them together. I'm going to wire the other ones together. And then what I have to do is I'm going to coat the interior of this with motor oil so that the concrete won't stick, and temporarily screw the bottom base to the form, and then pour the concrete. And I'm going to get some 5,000-pound concrete, and that should be really strong. So I'm going to try that next. We'll see how that comes out. Okay, here we are ready for the pour. I oiled the form with motor oil. What you see in the tray there is about half a cubic foot of concrete. According to my estimates, it's going to take 2 of those trays to fill this thing up, or about 1 cubic foot of concrete. So halfway between the 2 pours, I'll put in the reinforcing rod, and we'll see how it goes. Here's the first layer done, and I put the reinforcing rod in there. Also, I used the 4x4s to pound the corners to get the air out of it. I really pounded them all around the edges to try to get any trapped air out of there, any voids. So now on to the second layer. Well, there it is. There's the second pour. The first pour I put in there I thought was a little dry. The instructions say to use about 3 gallons per 80-pound bag of concrete. I found that was a little bit dry. Second one I put in about 3.5 quarts of water. The first bag was about 3 quarts. Second bag was about 3.5 to 4 quarts, and I thought it flowed a little bit better. So we'll see how it works out. I used a strip of plywood for a screed, and it took just about exactly 2 80-pound bags. So I had a 60-pound bag as backup in case I didn't have enough, but the 2 80-pound bags were enough. So that's where we are. Well, now the question is just see how it works out and let it dry out. Okay, here's the finished product. A couple of notes I found on getting this out of the mold. I had some problems getting it out of the mold. So what I eventually ended up doing is suspending it in the middle with some 4x4s, or supporting it in the middle with some 4x4s, and then using a dead blow hammer to knock the mold off from the top down, and that worked pretty well. The only problem is if I can't use this mold again because I glued some of these sections in to the mold, as you saw the angles, and in one section the glue didn't hold, and the little flat section on one of these sections here actually came loose. So if you plan to use the mold more than once, I would recommend not only gluing it to the 4x4s, but also screwing it to the 4x4s. I also did some finishing work around the edges, as you can see here, and I used a edger to do it. Didn't come out too great because I think I waited too long before I edged it. But it came out good enough for a septic cover. It's not going into the Sistine Chapel. It's just a septic cover, and I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. It weighed about 160 pounds, and the cost for all of this was about $25–30, as opposed to $200 to $300, which is what they wanted to charge me. 2 bags of cement, 80-pound bags, 4,000 pound strength, some lumber, and rebar that I put in it. If you have any spare wood or anything, the price could even be cheaper. But I used 2 80-pound bags of concrete, just about enough, and that's how it came out. And so hopefully this will last another 30 years like the last one. If you like this video, please subscribe and like it, and I appreciate it.